Hi, this is Stephen Mead. Over the years, I've read hundreds of books and spent thousands of hours developing what I call the bullseye belief system. And I've used that system to develop my own companies, as well as help others learn to be specific, targeted, and focused to get exactly what they want in life. This is the Bullseye Guy podcast.
Stephen Mead here again with another Bullseye Guy podcast, and excited today. Boy, you talk about timely interview, very fortunate. And if you're looking at the Zoom background, I'm super excited to have Gary Sorrentino, the CTO of Zoom. And I'm going to switch my background out in a minute. We're going to show you a bunch of cool features of Zoom at the end, but this background Gary gave to me.
I stole it from a client.
And he stole it from a client, but we're both sitting in the capsule of Han Solo. So what I'm going to do real quick, Gary, this is a fireside chat. So he's got his great little fireside background. I'll have you switch out to that. I'm going to switch to a nice little virtual background. And like I said, later on, we're going to show you some of the great things you can do with Zoom. I'm going to pick, see, we can switch through all these here. I'll pick a nice little background. There we go. I'm up and ready to go. Gary's got his fireside chat, and we're going to dive right in. Obviously, you guys have heard of Zoom. A lot of people, it's been around for a while. They've been doing an amazing job, but it's bursted onto the scene, obviously, because of the stuff with COVID. So we're going to cover that a little bit, but instead, I want Gary to take this opportunity to introduce himself. He and I met in Davos. I was invited to a dinner with NASDAQ, and he and Harry, the CEO, had sponsored it. They did a great job, and Gary's been a great friend of the firm. But Gary, introduce yourself, because you've got a really amazing background on the technology side that sort of led you from finance into Zoom and what you're doing now. So take it over.
Great, thank you. So I'm about 40 years in, so there's a little bit about my age. But my career has gone from what I would consider a bench tech fixing technology, mainframe computers way back then, up through management. I left the private sector about 25 years ago and got into the banking sector. Part of my background is not only IT, but it is also finance. And I joined UBS as their IT controller, working for a CIO, Harry Mosley, who you just mentioned. And from there, I ended up going to Credit Suisse as their CFO, and then ended up at Citigroup, another bank. And there I went back to being on the IT side as their CTO for their asset wealth management group. Spent a few years there. My last 14 years were at JP Morgan, though. I was the CTO for their asset wealth management group. And in the last 4 years there, I really focused on, I was the global head of external cyber awareness and training, basically working with their clients to keep them safe from the outside in.
And that's what I said when we kind of roll up to Zoom and some of the things now. I think your background and skill set, I don't know that anybody could have anticipated what you're doing now, but boy, your background was really relevant. Back in the finance side, though, as a CTO of a big financial institution, what are some of the things that you were focused on a daily basis? If somebody came in and said, Gary, on the list today, 1, 2, 3, what are those kinds of details from a big organization that you handled on a task side?
I think the main thing was stability, keeping things running. At the end of the day, client-facing organizations like asset wealth management, the systems have to stay running. So the first thing would be, how does everything stay running all day? And when you're running a global book and you're running global applications, there's always something that's failing. The goal is, how did it fail? How did you get it back up? How do you make sure it doesn't happen again? So that was the first thing every day. That's the thing that keeps you up at night. The other thing that keeps you up at night is, of course, security.
Yeah.
Right. When the word cyber came along, I also became CISO of that, the asset wealth management group. And then we moved from, yes, we figured out how to make things stable. We figured out how to make things resilient and user friendly. But then we had to make sure how to make things secure. And that posed another problem, because as you bring on new functionality, as you bring on new types of applications, you have to have that cyber first attitude. And especially working in a finance community, in a bank, right? That has to be your number one priority. And so it moved from being stable to being safe.
And again, because of your history and how long you've been there, you've seen the changes of technology through the years. So we're not going to go all the way back to mainframes and desktop and seat licenses. But with the invent, and sort of acceptance of what we'll call cloud, where a lot of your infrastructure is moved out into somebody else's, has that made security and stability harder or easier? How has that sort of changed the dynamics for you?
You know, I'm trying to think about harder, because what happens is as you move on to cloud, things change, right? Patching goes away, different items go away, but then you have to look at, I am running in someone else's house. And so you have to put that on top of other things that go away. Look, when you have servers, it's a constant, hard servers is a constant patching exercise. It's a constant every day, every week, every month, every downtime. There's something that needs to be patched. When you move to the cloud, you lose some of that because it's inherent in the elastic infrastructure. But after a while, though, you have to also worry about the security, how we're connecting to it. Did we set it up correctly, right? And so it changes. It changes more from, what am I going to say? A lot of people working very hard every single day around the world to keep things patched in a 24/7 shop, to a lot of people around the world constantly checking to make sure that things are set up correctly to keep you secure.
And again, you and I have known each other for a little while. I'm going to make a guess from your personality and our interactions. You're very entrepreneurial. You're very creative and think out of the box. How did you end up, if you agree with that, how did you end up in these large infrastructure-based organizations, and what kind of conflict have you faced as being what I think and perceive of you as very entrepreneurial, but organizations are very structural?
So I've been very, very, very fortunate. In the 4 banks that I've worked in, they really did support, JP Morgan also as the last one, they really did support an entrepreneurial spirit. They wanted people to think out of the box. They wanted you, look, you have guidelines and you have guardrails like anything else, right?
Yeah.
And you have rules. But at the end of the day, they wanted people to think for themselves. They wanted people to think out of the box and figure out creative ways. And so for a person like me who likes to think very entrepreneurial, it's very easy to grow in an organization like that when that's the type of personality that they want. And so it's made it very easy for me to handle, 24/7 shops, making people on the ground below me responsible, trusting in people. So I think at the end of the day, I was fortunate to work for the right managers and the right firms that allowed that. Some of the firms run a little bit more structured, and while we had structure at all those firms, the think on your own, figure it out. Those are things that make you thrive at work.
And that's a good segue for us when you talk about good manager flexibility. You're in Zoom now, and Zoom's, I don't want to call it a double-headed organization, but a lot of people that look and read know more about some of the founder, some of the Chinese aspect with him. But Harry's really running it now. Harry was the former CTO, I believe, of Price Waterhouse. He was recruited back in. Was that correct? He's CTO of one of the consulting.
He was at KPMG, right?
KPMG.
Right.
You as
he was
well.
CIO
you were
there.
really looking to come back in. Talk to us about how you ended up back in Zoom, what you were excited about, and what your expectations were, because where it is now probably isn't where it was when you first looked at coming back in.
Yeah, so I entered Zoom around December 1st, and I left JP Morgan late October, and Harry called me up and he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Trying to figure out what I want to do in Gary 2.0." And he said, "Well, why don't you try Zoom?" And I was like, "Zoom what?" And so what he said was, he gave me a free license, a free pro license to Zoom, and I fooled around with it for a while. And he said, "Look, here's what I need you to do." Harry's the CIO for Zoom, and he made me what's called a CIO Advisor. And he gave me the benefit of working with past colleagues and friends and peers on how to bring Zoom into their organizations. Sometimes you want to hear about it from a guy who's been 25 years in finance and has risked his own career on bringing in large-scale implementations. And so it was a good segue to help out colleagues, peers, friends from different organizations on how they could bring Zoom in. As soon as I got to Zoom, though, we also handled Davos. We were at Davos, as you said, and as you know, Davos is a boatload of work, weeks before, the week during, and even some for weeks after that. And so we partnered with NASDAQ at Davos, and we had a couple successful events there. And then when we got back, we started doing some of the normal CIO, CISO type of presentations for some of the larger groups around the United States. And all of a sudden, this item hit. And Zoom was one of the first people who said, we don't want people to travel. We do own a virtual tool, right? You can join some of those. And for those who look at my LinkedIn page, you'll see I joined one of them in Chicago, where it was the typical max headroom. There's me on one side of the screen, and there's my presentation on the other, right? And we still got as many questions, and it was still interactive. And as companies started to figure out we need to shelter in place and be home, products like Zoom started to be rolled out in mass.
Yeah, and
right. One of the things I started to do for Zoom then was I tried to help some of these physical events turn virtual. How do we do things like breakout rooms and things like that? How do we take that experience where people are physically together and move it into our virtual platform? So it's been a really great experience the last, probably 8 to 10 weeks.
Yeah. So I'm going to end on a lot of the things that you talked about, because the functionality of Zoom, why you were brought in, that momentum of sort of helping companies enter into a virtual world was accelerated. Obviously with COVID and all that, it has created a massive acceleration, a massive adoption, but also some pretty substantial challenges. And as best you can, or as you're comfortable, one, I want you to define what CISO is, or CISIS, because you talked about that and not everybody understands what that is from a security standpoint. And then talk to us as best you can, because you are a big public company. What are some of the challenges right now around security? And there's just start us down that path of sort of what happened around the CISO and the security, because I want to end on a lot of positive notes.
So look, the CISO function, Chief Information Security Officer, that's usually the person, the role in a firm who's responsible to make sure that the technology is safe.
Yeah.
Test it, safe, right controls, things like that, right? A little different than the CIO, who kind of runs technology. This is a very focused, dedicated position. Along the way, as Zoom started rolling out past its normal demographics, because don't forget, it was a lot of enterprises that were putting Zoom in. And when enterprises put it in, it's a little bit of a different implementation, because what happens is enterprises will take it, they will set up controls at the top of the house, from the admin dashboard, and they'll look at the controls and go, okay, I need to control this, or I can train people to do it. And they make those decisions throughout the whole setup. Now you get this consumer play. And what happens is, I use this great analogy. People don't read the books about anything that they use. I drive a Jeep, my second Jeep. It's got 2 red buttons on the left-hand side. To tell you the truth, I don't know what those 2 buttons do, and I'm on my second Jeep.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm embarrassed about that. But at the end of the day, I never figured out, after my second Jeep, how do I take that manual and figure out what these 2 buttons do? So as we started entering with the schools and everything, people needed to understand that in the virtual world, you have to do things that you do in the physical world. And here's just a way to explain it. We work with teachers a lot. And so one of them called me up and said, how do I make my Zoom safe? Okay. I said, well, think about it. Well, she taught the 4th grade. I said, well, I went to 4th grade. And when I went to 4th grade, the teacher stood outside the classroom. And she said, yeah, and let all of us little 3-foot 4th graders in. I said, but when the 7-foot guy tried to get in, she goes, oh, I didn't let him in. I said, we call that meeting room. She goes, oh, I got that. I said, and then after all 30 kids sat down, what'd you do? She said, I say good morning, class. I go, no, what'd you do before that? She goes, I closed the door. I go, we call that locking the meeting.
Okay.
I said, now let's go into the room. How many people can write on the chalkboard? She goes, there's only one teacher. That's me. I go, so you set up the meeting that you're the only person who could present? And she goes, I got that. Now I get it. Yeah. Right. And so one of the things that I don't know about struggling with, but the right thing is end user education and how to set up a secure meeting. You set this up very secure today. There was a password and there was a waiting room. Right.
Yeah,
we did all the right things today.
Let's stay down the path of security, because again, I know I'm not a journalist, so I don't want to go, oh, these are hard-hitting questions, but there's been some publicity and public concerns about the security of the Zoom platform, some meetings getting hacked. So to your point, there's been a couple instances where there's a meeting going on or a classroom and some guy was able to open the door or look in the window and wave and do some things. I know when you and I spoke the other day, you're putting together a pretty serious task force around security. So again, I don't know what you can or can't talk about publicly, but what kind of steps are you taking to really sort of address the security side and the infrastructure side of Zoom? And then I want to move to all the functional stuff and learn how to do cool things.
So as Eric said, and this is public information, is we took a 90-day pause on functionality, right? And we focused the company on security. Like every other application, there are some vulnerabilities that need to be fixed. Additionally, there's a lot about looking at controls that make it easier for the end user to be secure. So, and when we go through some of the cool stuff, we can talk about that. But I also think that what we're doing is we're listening to our clients. We started what we're calling the CISO Council, which is a council of our clients to help us with the voice of the client. What do you want to see? Help us prioritize, things like that. What better organization than to reach out to your clients and have their CISOs or their security people meet with you, discuss things that we want to do in the future together, help prioritize what we're working on and things like that. So Zoom's taken a very open view at, let's look at what's real and what's not, because there are certain things that are just inherent in all applications. How do we fix some of the training issues? And there are other things that we've done is we've turned some of the controls on by default rather than off by default. And we make people now go look and have to shut off some of the security features if they don't want to use them. And one of the things is about locking meetings and using unique IDs. If you know my phone number, say my Zoom phone number is 11111, what makes it that you can't type that phone number in 3 weeks from now and enter a call that I'm in? Wouldn't it be better if I used a different phone number every single time I had a meeting?
Got it. And again, Gary, along that line, because I was super impressed with you. We were on the phone with a friend of mine. Talk a little more about that, because to me, this is almost an opportunity for a best practices. You're a public company, and rather than hiding and not being transparent and going, oh, we don't have a problem, you're not only attacking it head on, you're attacking it with best of breed and customers and really soliciting advice. So, what would you tell other companies about how you think you guys are handling it? Because I think it's a really unique way.
Look, it's like everything going on even in the world today. People need to get facts. They need to get the truth. They need to have confidence in the vendors for the applications that they're using, whether they were free or whether they were purchased. A lot of the things that a lot of people have free Zoom licenses, but that shouldn't matter, right? The product should be secure regardless of whether it's paid or free. So I think that we've done a really good job, and you got to commend Eric. We've done a very good job of being very open and honest with our clients, addressing the problems head on, right? And publicly talking to our clients about what we're doing and what they should see in the future.
Yeah, and like I said, the team that you've put together when you were rallying off, you guys have really massive companies and a really, good team. So I'm excited to see the input and what comes out of that. And not that I read a bunch of white papers and best practices, but I hope you guys are keeping track of kind of what you're doing.
Yeah, and you're right. It's not about what white papers are for technology people, but a lot of this has to also be for the consumer, because there's a big consumer portion of Zoom right now that's not just enterprise and those geeks that sit in the back room and the support people. It's all about, look, there have been, how many people do, what do we call it, Zocktails, Zettings, right? And things. Zoom has become a verb. Right. And today it's keeping people connected while we're sheltering at home.
So there's our transition and segue. Because again, I learned a word the other day from you. It made it into mainstream a couple of days later, but I thought the word was something else. So you taught me the word zumping, which meant
being dumped on Zoom.
Correct. And unfortunately, when I heard that, I thought it was like humping. Again, it's a family-based show here, but I thought, oh, there's a lot of phone sex and video chat. I thought
that's not what it's about.
Different, but that was me.
And we've done Zaters and Zasovers.
Yeah.
The Zoom divorces are better than the Zoom weddings, and things like that. And I think we've actually managed to keep families connected. I know in my own personal life, almost every day I have some sort of cocktail hour I think me and my friends, hopefully some of them are listening, we're all ex somebody from some sort of big, large organization, and we meet every Wednesday night. We call it the board meeting, right? But what is it? It's cigars and red wine.
Board
And you know
as
what?
in BORED.
As in, yes, BORED, right? And
Yeah.
what happens is it's about cigars and red wine, and we sit there for an hour, hour and a half, maybe 18 or 20 of us every Wednesday night. To tell you the truth, we look forward to it.
Yeah, and so let's build on that, and let's sort of take it in stages. There's a free version. The version has a lot of cool functions, and just like you said, it's not only been a lot of small business and entrepreneurial, it's families, it's connection, it's couples. Talk to us about the cool features on the free side and why somebody should use Zoom and cool things it does, and then we'll kind of graduate up to some of the other more sophisticated things.
So I think the difference between the free version and the paid version really is just about 40 minutes, right? On the free version, you can make a phone call that only lasts 40 minutes, right? And then you have to make it, and you have to do it again, or a video conference, you have to do it again. And on the paid version, it's just that it's unlimited. I forgot, maybe after 24 hours or something, it stops. But that's really the big difference, is the duration of the single call. And so whether it's free or paid, you still get all the same security. You get all the same cool features. The background, as you just displayed, right, is a really cool feature.
On Solo, you gave me that one.
Yes. And it's so easy to just switch between, whether an older version of Millennial Falcon or being out by the lake, this is just another event, maybe being on the beach.
All right, if you want to show off, there's my Darth Vader one.
There you go. Right. Snow. This one I don't really like because I am skiing backwards, right, and things like that. Or to just rest on something that's fun. And so families have really done things like they've challenged each other on cool backgrounds. I've worked with companies that they do Friday afternoon coffee, and everybody has to bring a background that they invented, something that they didn't download, things like that.
Something as simple as this one, though. Gary, hang on. I'm sorry. I didn't know how to do it. It literally is 3 seconds. Once you know, so anybody that's using Zoom, in the lower left-hand corner of the screen, there's a camera icon. It says video. There's a little up arrow. Click the up arrow. It says choose virtual background. It pops up, and that's it. You add your photos in to that. I mean, it's literally so simple if you know what the red button does. You just have to know that the red button's there.
Exactly. And then you can download, like some people downloaded like high-res apartments. See, we're all working from home. And one of the things is working from home is, well, you dress from the waist up and you have, jeans or pajamas on the bottom, but now you have the background with the kids walking back and things like that. The background really makes it so that you're almost isolated from your own room. You don't see that there could be a child in the background and things like that, or a messy room or things like that. And then people are having fun with it. We did a panel of global CIOs, and it's a public video, so I can tell it. Shobes from Uber. At the end, we said, show something funny. And she put on the Snapchat filter, and she had on the dog ears and the long tongue.
Nice.
On Zoom, right? And that was just, today, we all need to have a little bit of fun in what we're doing.
So go back. I interrupted you on that. What was the thing you were talking about before with the company that, were they doing a contest or switching?
They did a contest.
Or what was that about?
They did a contest, and everybody was supposed to create a contest, either a still background or a moving background.
Okay.
I was on one webinar where what they said was, hey, at the end, because we all had the standard, to be official, I should be using, where's the one I should be using? I should be using my Zoom background, which is this one. There's my official, right? Okay. But what they said was, at the end, everybody put up their most creative background. And so people put on things that were really creative. And then they said, shut it off.
Yeah.
And then you just saw where they were.
Nice.
Right? And we do all this without a green screen. There's no green screen behind me. There's no green screen behind you. Certain processors don't handle it as well. And it will warn you. It might say, hey, this is maybe a dual processor, you need a quad processor, and things like that. But it really does make it a better experience.
So 2 quick questions, and then I want to move on to other functionality. The limitation in the free version is 40 minutes. Is there also a limitation for number of participants?
Well, I think the license goes to 100 or something like that.
I think it does, because I was in one other one that I couldn't get in. So for anybody using free, just be aware, 40 to 100. Is there a limitation on video? Does the video also that runs in the background, if I were to upload one, does it loop? or is it
the video's all loop depending on which video. Like my little this one here, this will loop. You'll see the wave come back again.
Just loop through. Perfect.
It's stuck into whatever size the MOV is.
Got it. Okay. So let's move upstream a little bit, or up wave, or up the palm tree on yours. There's some other cool functionality that's built in for businesses, and I know you and I have talked about it. We did a lot of virtual networking events. We did investment presentations. There's a lot of sales groups that are meeting, and normally sometimes you've got a meeting. It might be in a conference room, and then everybody breaks out to their own little boardrooms or their own little breakout sessions. Talk about some of the functionality. I didn't even know this was in there. There's ways to do breakout rooms and meeting rooms and things like that I think are cool.
In the meeting, so there's two real tools. There's meeting and there's webinars. And webinars are more where there's a panel like me and you talking, and there might be thousands out there, and we want to control the masses, and that's a webinar tool, right? That has a Q&A function and things like that. And I look at that more as it's almost like TV. It's like we want to have a good conversation. We want minimal participation, maybe just hand raising and Q&A, and that's called a webinar tool. But the meeting room provides you with a little more functionality. Like, we could be having a conversation, and then we say, look, so we're going to solve let's just take a normal business meeting. We want you guys to go away and solve the red problem. You guys to go away and solve the blue problem. You guys to solve the green problem. I want to meet you all back here in 40 minutes. The meeting tool has a way where we can create breakout rooms. And it allows you to either say, the tool will say, hey, Gary goes here, Bob goes here, Carrie goes here, blah, 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 such, or I can pick people. You open up the breakout rooms. Everybody leaves the main room. They go to their breakout room. That's a separate event. They do whatever they're going to do for the time that you want them to be there. The host has an override, so he can send a note to all the breakout rooms that goes, the breakout rooms are breaking in 2 minutes. He shuts the breakout rooms off. Everybody comes back. Now, you have to use that in this manner. Say you go to a physical presentation, and that's the ballroom. But during the breakout, you want to visit vendors. So vendor X, vendor Y, vendor Z. Now I don't leave my chair. I virtually go into a room with the person I want to talk to for X amount of time, and then I come back. And that's a really good feature in the meeting tool.
And that's in the paid version, which starts at what, $15 a month, I think?
$15. I think the breakouts are in the what do you call it? I think they're in the free version too.
It might be in the free. Where does somebody find that? How do they find it?
It'll be along the bottom, and it will sometime in the more. And if you click on it, you'll see breakout rooms. And you got to be in the meeting tool for that. The other things we do is we do recordings, as you're doing. That's cool. The other thing we do is we stream out to either Facebook or Workplace or some third-party stream. So if you wanted to have minimal people in this, but you wanted it to be on a Facebook site or something like that, you can do that. It allows you to live,
not just record. Okay, good.
Right, in a 20-second delay, but it's live. Yeah. We also can do screen sharing, so that it makes it's not like that typical, hey, we need to go get the IT guy and the cable so that we can take my laptop and present this. You can present right on the screen very easily through share screen. The other thing you can do is you can talk to all the participants, and the host has controls. The host can say, I don't know what Steven's doing there, but I'm going to shut his mic off, or I'm going to eject him from the meeting, and things like that. We can do reactions. This is a call. I can put up the thumbs up if I'm sitting out there in the audience. Like,
where's that?
Down on the bottom, it says reactions. Right?
Oh,
you see reactions?
Yeah, I do. I
can clap.
I never pressed it.
And things like that, right? We can control the view so that it's either the Brady Bunch view, the gallery view, up to 49 people on one screen, or it can just be, we can just keynote the speaker so he highlights in the middle of the screen when that happens. Lots of other things. One of the new features we came out with was this. Something's happening in the room. You might not have set it up correctly, and something happened. We put all the security controls in a brand new tool called Security, right on the bottom of the screen. When you click on it, it says, oh, where's Lock the Meeting? One place. Oh, wait a second, Steven just renamed himself. Like, the tool gives you this cool feature. What a lot of people will do is, in order to identify me, I might do something like this. I'm from Zoom. I renamed myself. Right? Now, some people turn that on or off because some people can write things that you don't want to see there. But if you know the people that are there, you can say, hey, especially for a panel, have all your panelists do this, because they might have missed the first 30 seconds. And this Gary guy is from what company?
Yeah, interesting.
So it's there.
And where's the security? So some of the security functions and things that are here, gallery view, I'm just looking at what's there.
So on the bottom,
Yeah.
what you would see next to the stop video up arrow, there'd be a new security function. This is an older version that we're on right now. But on the new version that came out last week, we put all the security tools in one place now.
So that's almost, I like analogies. It's almost like the 10-second delay where you're beeping somebody that might say something bad. Or back to my security questions, if somebody's hacked or broken into the room, it could be anything from, a classroom that somebody shouldn't be into, a public meeting, even a board meeting. You may have somebody, right? The board guys have information that may be sensitive. If somebody breaks in, you're saying that's an instant stop.
Well, there's the controls are there. So you hit the security tool and it says, what do you want to do? What it makes it is, imagine this, on your car, so much controls happen in just the controls on the dashboard. They never want you to reach away. We put it all in one place. Now, the problem with some of that you said is the meeting was set up improperly. No one should have been able to enter that board meeting after it was locked. No one should have been able to share because he set it up so only one person can share.
Yeah, and I think that, Gary, in closing, that sort of gets back to reading the manual in the car. Yes. There's a lot of functionality that you have built in that if somebody understands that, then they may take the time to read and look for it. I think some people, like me, I didn't even know some of this existed, and that's why I was kind of super excited to have you on. So this has been great. Appreciate it. Anything you want to leave the audience with, both in terms of what you're doing at Zoom and where you see the future sort of this next new normal, if we were to talk about business, because I think a lot of this is going to change. Just leave us with some good thoughts.
I think the new normal is going to be a hybrid of virtual workers going back to work. And what I hope happens is this. A lot of people learn to communicate over Zoom, families, things like that. I am personally closer to my family now because of Zoom and because I'm sheltering in place somewhere. I'm not with them. And yet every day we're meeting, we're actually seeing each other. I hope that when we get back to whatever normal is, we don't stop that, right? Yeah. I hope that I'm talking to mom every day still. I hope that people are calling each other up and going, hey, grab a glass of wine, right? And things like that. So on the personal side, I'm very proud of what Zoom has done, right? Because I think what they've done is they've connected up people that right now need to be connected, right? In a very safe, seamless, easy to use way. Children are learning through e-learning on Zoom now. That's a fabulous thing, right? Businesses are now staying connected because of Zoom and other products also, but they're staying connected. So what I hope in the future is as we move from 97% of the people are home, they said, or something the other day, to a hybrid of virtual workers and regular workers, we continue what we built upon where people are being closer together.
Yeah, that's amazing, Gary. Appreciate it. Hey, again, thanks so much. I think it's good that you in from the cockpit.
There you go.
You're really in control of a spaceship right now, and it's moving fast and super excited. So again, big thank you for taking the time. I know you're super busy. Again, thanks everybody tuning in. Stephen Mead, the Bullseye Guy podcast. Tune in next week. We'll have another great guest, but big thumbs up, big props to Gary, Harry, and the whole team. Great job with Zoom, guys, and thank you so much.
Take care.
All right, thank you.
Bye.